fascinating. And I'd just like to say before we kick off, we will throw the questioning open to you all after Vincent has a chance to interrogate these four. And if you have a question, put your hand up and don't open your mouth till you get the mic, okay? Because we won't be able to hear you. So there's 2 roving mics. So put your hand up, and if you're lucky enough to be selected by Vincent to voice your opinion or your question, we'll get a mic to you, and then you'll kick off. So I'm delighted to introduce to the stage, we'll go in this order, John Connors. Second last but not least, Mark O'Connor. We're delighted to introduce, to welcome to the IFI, I think for the first time in this capacity, star of stage and screen radio, Vincent Browne. Thank you very much.
Okay, who wants to ask a question? Go on.
How are you, Vincent?
Who's the fella there who made the smart remark down a minute ago?
Oh, there's over there.
Mike, do you want to ask a question?
There's hands
Hi,
over
Mr.
here.
Fitzgerald, how are you?
Okay, well, yeah, right.
Hi everyone, my name is Bridget Quilligan and I'm a traveller woman from Killarney. I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the film and I loved it. And although it doesn't represent the typical traveller lifestyle, I thought you did very well and really proud of you all. So congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is John and I'm a traveller, and I have to say that I really enjoyed it. I think there was a great, you got it right with the mixture of travelerness and Irishness, and it was lovely to see. While I don't approve of violence and all of that, it was the element of violence that was there was no difference than you'd see in something like a James Bond film or something like that. So it was okay. And in terms of the only one little criticism, I would like to hear more gammon spoken. It could have been a defeat if you're all young. There's no current defeat or anything like that. But there you go. I thought it was very good.
Hello there, my name is Noel, and just for the record, I'm not a traveller. I just want to say that, okay? But that was a fantastic movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I just want to ask a question about the fight scenes. I'm very intrigued in that. Did you use a stunt team? Did you have people doing stunts? Because they were really well coordinated, and you did well. Really, did you get many injuries on that? And how did you manage to pull it off?
Yeah,
did you get any injuries?
Did
you get any injuries?
Actually, I stood in and no. The thing about the fight scenes was the idea behind it was that in the past, like in most films, you see people get their head movements like this, and it looks like they're getting hit like really hard. So the thing about this film was we tried to do it completely real and make it like a YouTube video. So actually in that film, it seems like they're not hitting each other too hard, but it was actually because they were hitting each other hard. and the lads wanted to do it like that. I had to actually calm them down and kind of try to. And yeah, there was injuries. There was a couple of bruises. Ribs. We shot it I think there was ribs broken or something. We shot it on the last day because I got a black eye. Stuff like. It was like, look, we were just trying to do the film justice and make it as real as possible, so, yeah, it was real.
Did you have to use a stunt team or something like that?
Yeah, we did it for a fight coordinator.
Yeah, there was fight coordinators, but the two fighters, one of them, the guy that was fighting John was a brother of mine, James, who's in the boxing since he was a small young lad, and him and John are very good friends, and they just said, listen, let's go out and do this, and I think before we even got to film it, they had a couple of rehearsals and they came back with bruises and black eyes. So yes, there was people hurted, but all in good fun.
It's all fun and games.
Can I put a point to you? I thought the film was magnificently edited and the camera work was fantastic. I thought the direction of the film was great. But I have the reservation I would have was, is this the kind of stereotype image of travellers that you want to portray, Michael?
Well, Vincent, it's a fiction film, so you know, it's and you know me a long time. You're a very good friend of my father's, and you're a friend of the family. So don't be so hard on me for the start. But anyway, see, the thing is, if you're going to do a film about travellers and you want to make it as real as possible, there are stereotypes that settled people have that are in the travelling community, and you have to portray them. Now, how you portray them and how travellers would accept it or not accept it, or how settled people would see it. To me, this is about a film. It's a love story. You could say Romeo, Juliet, you could say Hamlet. It's something that I put my whole heart and soul into, and I'm glad I did. But if somebody else done it, I'd criticise it.
Yeah.
Can I?
Well, I feared that
Can I just add to that? I mean, the only violence I disapprove of in the film is like the feud and stuff and slash hooks and whatever. It does happen. That's about 5% of the community. But bare knuckle boxing, like I mean, a lot of different travellers have different views. I don't think it's that wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with two men going out in a one-to-one fight and just leaving it at that afterwards. It's very rare that it leads to a feud. Most of the time, you go and have a pint with the fella after, and you become friends. So I don't think that's that violent.
Because there's one very interesting thing John said the other night in one of the programmes, and it just stuck in my head, and I went, oh God, I never thought of it like that. You get particularly the Sunday World and the tabloid newspapers, when you have, it's a very small percentage of travellers that are involved in feuds, and the majority of travellers know who they are, and they just keep rolling over and rolling over. The media even know them by name now at this stage. But at least when travellers go out, they fight one-to-one when they have a feud. When settled people go out, they start shooting each other.
Not true all the way.
No.
We're not having a debate here, though.
No.
That's generalising as well.
The point John was making is, if you get two fellas that go out and fight and they shake hands and go for a pint.
What I said was, in my area where I'm from, Darndale, it's a very rough area, a lot of shootings and stabbings and whatever. And if I were to look at that in the same generalising way, I would say all the people in my area settle and argue by shooting and stabbing each other. You know, so they're looking at it the same way, we're all killing each other, slashing at each other. Yeah. So I mean, I can easily generalise it that way as well, and it's not the truth, because people in my area, they'd ring the guards or they could talk it out, but there's some of them that will shoot and stab each other. Yeah, you know? And the worst we're doing, like in 95% of it, is just bare knuckle.
A lot of people, Vincent, were saying, like, you know, as I was writing and as I was meeting Michael and stuff, you know, you shouldn't be shown the bare knuckle boxing and you shouldn't have that much violence in it. And we met the Irish Traveller movement and they were great because they supported us. But the thing was, you know, there's actually an anti-violence message in the film.
There is. Yeah.
That violence breeds violence, you know. And I don't know if people got that or not, but there is, like, you know. That's what I feel about it.
Well, particularly from the character Francie, who you know, killed his own brother because he wanted to be head of the family, and then found out 20 years down the line that this is not working. It's something that's just creating itself, and it's happening all over again with John, and he doesn't want it anymore. But of course, there's people like Mickey the Bags that won't keep his mouth shut. Who's not even a real traveller anyway. I don't even know what we're doing. But it's always the people who are not real travellers that cause all the trouble. Did you ever notice that? No, but it's just, you know, there is a message in the film saying that this doesn't work. And if people read into the film right, I mean, the character Francie is a mad religious freak of nature. You know, he'd done bad things, he was bad, and now he's trying to redeem himself and he's trying to hold the family together. And of course, if you do bad things in the past, it always catches up in you. You know?
Is that why you played the part so well, Michael?
What are you trying to say? I can't remember ever doing
that. Keep the violence out of this.
No, but it's just in that, and you know, and when Mark wrote the character and gave me the character, I was saying, "Geez, how do you do this?" And then I just remember hearing the story, and I remember seeing travellers who were actually the people who would be really, really hard and bare knuckle fighters, and you know, always wanting to cause trouble. Always seemed to be very religious. You know, don't be cursing around the table, bless your face. And if somebody passes by in the coffin, oh, the Lord have mercy on him, and he'd kill you in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? So he was a character that he didn't know, but to me, he was contradicting himself, and I think Francie was doing that.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else want that?
But contradicts himself as well.
Anybody else want to put a point? Yeah, here.
I just...
But wait till you get a microphone now.
Yeah, shit.
I just like to say I really, really enjoyed it. Absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed it. And the point you made about the travellers not fighting all the time and understanding each other, and you know, punching each other, and it's over and done, okay? And the guy who was not really the traveller, he didn't really understand that situation, and that's what came across to me, that he wasn't really a traveller. So he didn't understand that you could have a fight and it's over with. He was of a different category altogether. And I just thought the whole thing was absolutely fabulous, and I really enjoyed it. And it did come out at the end that violence doesn't work, and that nobody won in the end of it.
No.
And it was a really good portrayal of that. And I don't think that the violence was the thing that won out. And I don't know why anybody would have would be controversial about it. I actually really thought it was a very good message, and I think it would be a good message for young people as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
That's all right.
And that's why John Paul gets killed at the end, because that was the message. But the thing that you're saying there about the character of Peter making the bags, the way he's not meant to be a real traveller, but he's actually trying to. A lot of travellers are afraid to admit that they're a traveller. And as I was talking to Michael about that, like before,
in certain situations,
I just wanted to flip that stereotype on its head and have Mickey the Bags like he's really insecure about not being a real traveller. So he's really proud to be a traveller, but he's not accepted. So he acts in a different way, and everything is overboard,
It's one of those things that, I mean, if you take anyone that doesn't feel comfortable in a surrounding, I mean, you take anyone, a child in school who doesn't feel comfortable in their surroundings, they're going to behave outside of themselves to try and feel wanted or feel involved. And I mean, I think that was Mickey the Bag's biggest issue, is that he was living amongst travellers his whole life, and he found it so hard to get involved that he over-accentuated and, over-compromised their lives just so he could show other travellers and settle people, prove himself that he was a traveller, and in the end it was to his detriment. So be happy where you are.
One of the points I thought was interesting was which was mentioned a number of times, respect. That the search for respect was an important factor in the film, and it's a huge factor, I think, in society generally, and that in our society so many people are treated with disrespect. A whole swathe of people are treated with disrespect, largely because of the huge inequality in society. I thought that was an interesting.
Definitely, and I just want to say that, there's still just so much racism in this country, and we've seen it by, on the forums when there's been a lot of articles online about Kingdom Travellers, and half the comments are very racist.
Never mind, that's only tiny.
I feel very important is traveller ethnicity, that the government recognises that, because it'll bring more respect for the community. In the UK they recognise it, and I don't understand why they don't here, because they have a separate culture which is and a language can't, and I think it's very important, because it'll help when traveller kids are in school with and it'll help their rights and stuff.
100%.
I was just talking to a woman outside, a friend of Stuart Carlin, who is a documentarian who's following a young child two children from Darndale who just got a scholarship to Belvedere College. And I mean, I think that's like a great show of what is to come in the future. You know what I mean? The integration of people into schools, that schools will now, and they are. I mean, there's mixed schools, but that anyone can succeed. Anyone can go to college. Anyone can do anything. I mean, the more, as you say, inequality is broken down.
You talked about Belvedere.
Well, I talk about Belvedere, that these two children got scholarships to Belvedere, and not necessarily on academic levels, but on, being actors, being good at sport, being good at anything. As long as we break down that wall of inequality, people can see people for what they are.
Yeah, and absolutely. I also think that, I've been involved in acting for the last 20 odd years, and I wrote a couple of shows, one-man shows, and I always feel that when I'm doing the one-man shows, even though they're based on the travelling community, the issues are about society. But I always feel through drama or television, you could actually express a lot more, and people will sit down and have a debate about it. Where if it was, if we were up here talking, say we didn't see the film and we were talking about travellers, this would be a whole different conversation. And I think when people see this, they go, it's a platform for raising stuff, raising the issues of, say, the big fat gypsy wedding, or the fist fighting, or the feuds, or discrimination, or so it's a great platform to express yourself, and that's the reason why I'm so intrigued and love it actually.
You know, I think protests are very important in terms of traveller rights and equality and justice, but you know, sometimes actually a film or music, you know, an example would be like hip hop, you know, for you know, young white kids listen to hip hop, and in my opinion, it can bring stuff forward a lot, you know, and that's what I think. Films and music and stuff.
You see, art, you can do it in a neutral way and just show them it and let them feel it, as opposed to shoving it down their necks in reality. So I think that's where the advantage is.
One of the things I often come across is that people who are behaving in a racist manner towards travellers, you ask them, well, have you ever met anybody? Have you ever talked to them, socialised with them or anything? And none of them ever have.
Completely, yeah. Like the whole time that I was making this film, there was a lot of people making comments and stuff like, oh, don't make this film. No one wants to see a film with travellers in it. And I was getting all this discrimination, not towards me, but towards the travelling community. So I was kind of starting to understand how travellers must feel, you know. But the thing is, these people hadn't actually ever been friends with travellers. You know, they just had seen them, you know, in the area and this and that, but they didn't have actually any traveller friends. And like, I suppose you can't blame some people for having initial, like, you know, because it's a lot of fear, you know. Because they've never got in there and talked to them, you know.
Yeah.
Because one of the funny stories, Vincent, when we start filming the traveller's wedding scene, we were trying to get a hotel, a real hotel. And the boys rang me up and he says, Michael, do you know any hotels? I said, I know, lads, you go out and look for the hotel. And they actually got 2 hotels that cancelled after that because they found out it was a film about travellers. When they heard it was a feature film, they went, oh yeah, no, that'd be great, like publicity. But as soon as they heard it was a film about travellers, it was just, and the same with the Rap Party, they cancelled it.
A lot of stuff like that.
So, you know, and then people, you know, people say, you know.
The hotel.
What?
What was the hotel?
Well, yeah, I can't.
Cormac, what were the hotels?
The point I'm making is people, you know, they look at Big Fat Gypsy Wedding and they look at the people in the hotels. Even in Big Fat Gypsy Weddings, most of the places you see are community halls and places like that, not big posh hotels. Even though the weddings are elaborate, they just can't get hotels in this country or even in England because they're members of the travelling community. And sometimes you just have to take the money out of the economy and go over to Spain or to France or somewhere and organise a proper hotel where people can just enjoy themselves. And that's the state that people have to live in this country, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, when Mark was telling me the story, and I think one of the producers came back to me and said, we can't get a hotel. And I said, look, get a community hall, we'll do it up, it'll be the same thing. And it worked. As you see, the wedding was absolutely brilliant, the wedding scene. So it does work. But behind that was the whole thing around, sorry, if it was an Irish film about Irish people, settled people, yes. An Irish film about Irish travellers, no. And that's what it boils down to.
Okay, somebody over here was near the door there, yeah.
Hi guys. Sorry. I like the fact, Mark, that you didn't choose an easy subject to make a movie. I was just wondering how you and Peter, as not being travellers, prepared yourself for the movie. Did you spend time with them? Did you travel with them?
A couple of points.
Read books?
Go a few points. You know, like, I find for every script, no matter what it is, like, even if whatever you're writing, like, you know, research is actually the biggest part. Because the writing, the first draft can take 3 weeks or something, and then the rewriting takes time, but the research can take 6 months or a year, like, so I just spent the whole time, the first year was just research and spent a lot of time with Michael, going to different sites. But I also wanted to have different pubs, yeah. And,
we went to a wedding. Remember the wedding?
And then trying to talk to different families, because you can talk to the Collins, which is Michael's family, very respected family. But then I wanted to talk to the Connors and other families. So
what are we? Are we not respected?
Oh, say yeah. No, they're the tough family. And Johnny's family.
John was a separate person who said that. Nothing to do with me.
But no, just a more all-rounded.
Don't want to feel.
And of course, then Peter, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well. I mean, I remember, like, when we made Between the Canals, Mark is one of the why we get on so well. Is that Mark wanted to make a film Between the Canals about people from the north in the city, a film about people from there. But not only did he want to make it about them, he wanted to make it with them, to, you know, get in there, get right at the thick of it, understand what they're about, spend time with them, and slowly but surely the same thing happened when we met Michael in Smithfield, which is nearly 2 years ago, and we had the script, Mark, at the first draft, and we were like, we want to make a film, we want to make sure it's real, we want to make sure the language is real. And after 9 months, you know, we were rehearsing Saturday, Sunday, we were all doing different jobs in between. We'd go to the cobblestone, listen to music, have a chat. I'd find out about Michael's father, who in the corner of the cobblestone you'd sit beside, and he'd be talking to him after 6 pints. But I mean, it was that thing, and getting to know John and his family, and then slowly but surely I had my dictaphone listening to their accents, trying to get that going, and their characteristics, watching him strut around the dance floor. And then I went to live. John's family were nice enough to offer me a bed in their site. And it's talking to your granny Chrissy about, like, you know, the old days and where they came from, and you know, you find such a welcoming people and such a lovely people, you know what I mean? I remember you gave me my dad's birthday one day, and we were heading off home, and I said, Michael, will you come here? I said, I won't. But he gave me a book, you know, to give my dad, that an uncle of yours had written, is that right?
No, Fergus Whelan.
Fergus Whelan. But anyway, he gave it to me, wrote a message in it to give to my father, and that was it, you know what I mean? That's what you're dealing with. If you're nice to people, people will be nice back.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important message you can ever make. Get to know them, ask them questions, find out about people. And I mean, it was a pleasure and a joy. Now I've made 2 friends that I'll avoid for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but you have to remember, it took...
That was a good speech.
It took Peter about 8 or 9 months to get to know us. It took me 22 years to get to know ye. So don't forget that.
The other thing actually during the research was like, because you hear, like, you know, stories before we did the research was like, you know, travellers come from the famine days, but then we knew that was not the case. But through the research, you know, talking to Johnny's grandmother Chrissy, like, and she showed us old documents of, like, you know, where tinkers are referred to back in the
tinkers and peddlers
time, in the 1600s, but then the documentary came out with the DNA studies, you know, that showed that travellers' DNA go right back 1,000 years and more. 3,000?
3,000. I'm unique.
He's unique, yeah.
Well, we're getting discriminated against about over 1,000 years. Yeah. Tinkers and peddlers, and like we were banned from the United Kingdom and Ireland, and a civilian could kill any traveller on the spot anybody wanted, because what he did, he went from the loyalist communities buying stuff, luxurious stuff, selling it to the nationalist communities, and the British didn't want the nationalist community having all this luxury. So I mean, that's how long we're being discriminated on our island, and we are Irish, you know. It's sad.
Okay, over there. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the scene between Francis and John Paul, which is about tip the hat to on the water. And I just wanted to know if John was aware of the significance, the cinematic significance of that scene, and was it intimidating to try and read?
Marlon Brando is my favourite actor, so I was definitely aware of it. I mean, Mark was he was like paying homage to it in a way. Me and Mark talked about the scene, and like, I mean, there's even more of me as a person in that scene than there is of the On the Waterfront scene. I mean, because I fought, I was a boxer, and I won a lot of titles and stuff, and I went through some hard times where I gained a lot of weight, and the boxing career just went out the window, and I couldn't deal with that. You know, I was in a sort of depression. So I could really connect with the character. So I mean, I think the scene changed the night before, or 2 nights before. In the middle of the shoot, it changed. It was like a smaller scene, and we talked about it. So it's as much as paying homage to Marlon Brando, who's my favourite actor. I could never compare to him. He's the greatest actor of all time, in my opinion. As it was to just, like, you know, just exploring something personal that, you know, that I knew I could feel, you know, and hoping that an audience could see that and relate to that.
And through the conversation we had with myself and Mark and John when we were talking about that scene, I could have went to the Olympics. I could have been somebody. Whenever a young traveller goes into a boxing ring, he's not thinking about beating the traveller in the next family. He's talking about the Olympics. I mean, if you talk about like less than 5% of travellers are involved in feuding in this country, then there's 2% of travellers who actually represent this country, and very well, like young Nevin getting the silver medal, Francie Barrett, young Ward who missed his opportunity but will get one. So I mean, you have so many different sides to travellers fighting, but the only one that ever comes up is when travellers feuding. But it's the pressure that's put on young travellers. They have to come from a very strong family and say, you are not getting involved in this argument. Your road is to the Olympics. And that's what we want to see as travellers. And that's what the Irish people want to see. And that's what young travellers want, is that road, not that road. And what happens is, if you don't come from a strong family and you're pushed into a certain way, you go that way. And that's what happens. And that's where the bitterness comes out.
Somebody up here,
Yeah, Roach is my name. I suppose a very enjoyable film, but if I had just a comment on it, like I think it didn't challenge really any of those kind of stereotypes, and so women say nothing in it. You know, the traveller women, they just kind of, they're there in the background. And the other thing about it is that, like, I suppose it's almost what you'd expect. It doesn't really go to the core, I think, of the huge issue that we have around racism against the travelling community in Ireland. I mean, I would think it's our really, I know we have the Magdalens and all the other issues that we have to deal with, but I think the thing that's the way we treat the travelling community and travellers, and that we can make a film and sit here and have a discussion about it, and someone says, and I do no disrespect to you, that like, because 2 kids are going into Belvedere, this is some way going towards, solving this huge issue in how we treat this section of our society. And I remember being in the States and coming back a few years ago and saying, Jesus, like, this is classic, like, this is like Mississippi in the 60s, the way we treat the travelling community. And so I think the film, I would have liked to have seen it kind of, I suppose maybe the violence does it a disservice because so much of the racism is subtle now, and it's so covert, and it's institutionalized, like the cops, the police come across as being humane in it, and so to have gone a bit further and challenged, kind of taken it on in a real way and challenged it and put it up to the settled community, put it up to the people here. The way we treat travellers is just absolutely, it's appalling.
Yeah, great point. It's a brilliant point, and totally respect that. I disagree with that we didn't deal with the racism because we weren't making like a social statement film. This was a drama, fictional based, but we did put as much as we thought was necessary, which was the council, colluding with the landowner, and the landowner like being completely racist towards travellers, and we felt that was important. But the one thing about the women in the film, like, yeah, they aren't in the film too much, but the thing is, like, the women that are in the film are very strong characters. Winnie, she's there for John, she's very, loyal, and the mother of Mickey the Bags, she has a say, like, when all the men are around. And even though the travelling community might be associated with being strong, the men are strong in the community, I think the women are shown as strong in the film. That's just one thing.
Can I just add? Go on, Pete.
No, I just want to say one thing. Like, what I'm talking about when I mentioned the 2 children from Belvedere is I'm talking about it from a personal point of view. That from my point of view, I spent a year and a half with the travellers. I lived with them. I got to know them. I'm very good friends with them now. I hope that those 2 children that go to Belvedere will become friends with the 35 or 45 other students in Belvedere, and that will help the integration between settled people and travellers for years to go ahead. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to pick out and say that it's great that they became them. I'm just saying that I hope it helps with the progression of bringing them together.
And can I just say, as a traveller who was involved in a story and the casting and everything else, man. See, we have our job done here, because if you hadn't seen this film, this platform we used here, you wouldn't have made that speech and 200 people wouldn't have heard it. So that 200 people here go home with what you said, then we've our job done.
Yeah.
That's the point.
The other thing is, this is completely fictional. It's a fictional film. I mean, I agree with nearly everything you're saying, 100%. But the film's not about tackling racism as one issue. I don't think it would have worked, because it was just being force fed down the audience. I mean, there was messages there. I mean, some people get them, some people don't. And then just the other thing I just slightly disagree with is you said that the racism against travellers is covert and subtle. I think it's over the top. Like, I've experienced it all my life, and you haven't been shy about being racist against me all my life. It's been straight out to my face. So I mean, if you have TDs, elected officials, judges coming out with racist statements or remarks, that's not subtle, and they're allowed to get away with it. And if we were an ethnic minority, I think we'd be protected. And not only would you have to apologise, because none of these has apologised for the things he said about travellers, not only have to apologise, they'd have to retire if they said it about a Nigerian, a Polish man, a Romanian. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not subtle.
Somebody there.
I'd like to say, well, thanks to everyone that was involved in the film, but I agree with that lady. I think it's very stereotyping.
Use the mic.
I think it's very stereotyping travellers. I would have loved to see more around where you actually have young travellers that's in a second level, third level education, where you have travellers that went boxing for Ireland, where you have travellers hurling. Do you know what I mean? I just really feel that it's pure stereotype, and that's being very honest. And
Yeah, but the next one is going to be King of the Travellers Part 2.
yeah,
Have all that. I know what you're saying.
You're right in what you're saying, but to do all that, you have to.
Why did you call it King of the Travellers?
Because it was a marketable name, and people would want to see it. Yeah, like, it is the film industry. It's the film industry, like, you know what I mean? No, you're right in what you're saying, and like 100% you're right in what you're saying, but to do all that, and you're 100% right, but it wasn't that type of film. It was a film where people are going to be entertained. At the end of the day, people going to pay €10 in, right? It's like an escapism in the cinema. You want to be entertained, so you have to make 10 films to fit all them in. You know?
There's also typical I've never seen it in my life. Now I'm actually from Ballyfermot.
You've never seen bare knuckle fighting?
In my life.
I fought 5 bare knuckle fights myself. I've seen it. It happens.
In it, don't know grabbing, never got grabbed before, don't know nothing about it.
Right, okay.
Right? And it's just so typical. Traveller like films, those whatever stereotyping. But I will say the acting was good. Apart from that, like,
okay, thank you. We're friends then.
Just say that there was actually no grabbing in the film.
There is no grabbing.
Yeah, there's a reference to it. It's all I'm saying. People are talking about it. This is why we're getting racist against, because people automatically think that we're going to be anywhere, we're going to rise fights all the time, and it's just that, like, it's not your film, mister, but it's pure stereotype film, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, no, you're entitled.
Fair play to you, yeah. There was no grabbing though in the actual film.
It was mentioned.
It was, yeah, but Mark was,
yeah, but
Mark himself knows this, and we talked about this at length, that grabbing is more of an English gypsy tradition, and that it's not an Irish traveller thing at all. So that's why it wasn't in the film.
Could I just ask 2 questions? Ask one question and then make a second. Do you think that the prejudice against travellers will be lessened or exacerbated by the film?
No, it's not. It's not going to be a monumental film in that way. No, it's not. I mean, and it wasn't a statement in that way. Like, that's a long, hard battle. One film is not going to change that.
No, but it contributes to one way or another.
I mean, to get to know personal characters, so maybe.
I think it's a very difficult question to answer, you know, because I can actually see the 2 sides of that question you're asking. Yes, it will, and maybe it won't, I don't know, but it all depends on when the audience see the film and read into the story. But it's a hard enough question to answer, because it depends on where the film is shown and what the audience is going to walk away with.
Okay, and just one further reflection, and it is this, that isn't there something bizarre about a society where a senior cabinet minister writes to a constituent claiming credit for denying a house to a traveller in his own constituency? Isn't there some, and that nothing at all happens to that? I'm talking about Phil Hogan.
No consequences.
Nothing at all happens. I think it's almost a touchstone. There's something deeply dysfunctional about a society that a senior minister can get away with that, and there's no outrage at all about it. It's like what happened with John Ward, the murder of John Ward, and the way that has been portrayed since that time. We've time for one more question. Sorry, we don't have time for one more question.
No, sorry.
All right. Okay.
All right. I think everybody involved in this film deserves a round of applause.
I just want to say one more thing, which is firstly, thanks to the travelling community, thanks to all the people that came here tonight, thanks to my lovely wife, because she supported me through everything, and I just want to say thanks to Mickey the Bags, because the real Mickey the Bags is in the audience, and fair play to Conor McGregor, by the way, a national hero for what he did recently. I want to say that.
And thanks, Mark, for getting us all involved.
And tell all your friends, go and see the film, but enjoy the story. Go home happy. Good film. Good film.